Oh, I never do videos this early. Wow. Not awake. Hi guys, it's Leanne, in some form or another. And I'm here today with a discussion video. So very recently in a wrap up, I mentioned that I had DNF'd a book, and it was a big dun 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 moment because for this particular author, I don't think I've ever DNF'd, let alone just given away the book. And a few people have been like, where is this? You have left us on a complete cliffhanger. And the reason for that is that I discovered that I had quite a lot to say. So I'm going to discuss in this video the 3 books that I have now DNF'd in 2016 and how I feel about that. For a start, let's just get the cliffhanger out of the way. Are you ready? The first book that I DNF'd this year was The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters. The Paying Guests is literally about a mother and a daughter, an elderly mother and an adult daughter, who are now converting the upstairs of their London home for paying guests. After the war, the sons have unfortunately died in the war, the father has died from grief, and they find themselves scrimping and saving just to be able to afford to feed themselves. The mother and the daughter are quite prim and proper in sort of upper middle class London society. The people who they take in end up being lower class. They're very loud, they're very flamboyant, they like a drink, they like to smoke, they have lots of family around, they go out and do things and come in at weird hours. And I really loved the first third of this book because I hasten to point out that this book is like over 500 pages in the hardback. I can't remember exactly how many pages it is, but it's long. And I read up until like page 220 odd, so I had read a fair chunk of this before I gave up on it. And I just felt like it had all been done before. Sarah Waters had literally used every one of these plots in a different way before. Helen actually listened to this on audiobook, so I did find out what happened in the end for this one, so I didn't have that really annoying suspenseful thing where you're like, oh, I've devoted all this time to this book. And I think maybe that helped me DNF it, because in previous years, an auto-buy author for me like Sarah Waters, I would have struggled on to the finish no matter what. It would not have mattered how crap that book was. I was going to get to the end of it and it was probably going to stay on my shelf forever. The second book which I DNF'd was Embroideries by Marjane Satrapi. Yes, the author of Persepolis. I really enjoyed Persepolis. Embroideries, on the other hand, is a very short collection. Basically, it is the young Marjane Satrapi attending a gathering of women in somebody's house wherein all ages of women gossip about men and sex. And I suppose it does 2 things really. The first thing is that it tries to show us in a very sort of cultural shock way that these women are just women and they talk about the same things that we talk about, that Western women talk about. And the second thing that it does is kind of vaguely show us a cultural difference in how they talk about these things. But it was like reading Cosmopolitan in graphic novel version. If I heard one more time about the size of someone's penis, I might actually have thrown the book out of the window. I'm all for a good penis story when it's relevant. Wasn't relevant. Ceased to be relevant after the first story. We got it after the first story, and I think there's like 8 interwoven little stories in this volume, and blah. And the last book that I DNF'd was a book I did not expect to DNF at all. And it was Reasons for Living by Matt Haig. I loved the first 20 odd pages of it. I loved the descriptions of anxiety. I loved that it was very choppy. That what I did not like was that towards the first third of the book, Matt Haig starts discussing medication. And for a book which is supposed to be a mental health breakthrough narrative, he talks really destructively about his relationship with pills, and by that I do not mean that he abuses pills. He believes that people who take pills might need those pills, but that it's almost like an addiction. It's like being hooked on something. It's not dealing with the actual root of the problem. People who take pills are avoiding dealing with their problems. They're just medicating the symptoms. This is a point of view in our global mental health culture that we're trying to move away from. This was a point of view that was relevant in the 80s when things like antidepressants were crutches and coping mechanisms and highly addictive. When people with mental health issues didn't want to talk about them because of the stigma of taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. I'm so mad that I can't even speak. And it made me furious. It made me absolutely furious. This brings me to why I've found it easier to DNF books this year. Life is too short for bad books. Now you have a 50-page rule. 50 pages, if it has not impressed me by 50 pages, it's gone. For me, there have been very few books that I have ever read that have had slow starts, because there are some books with just slow starts that don't get better within 50 pages. So that's what I'm now doing with my DNFing of books. And I want to ask you, are you DNFing books more this year? Have you found that the videos on BookTube, of which I have seen quite a few of recently about DNFing books, have you found that those videos are helpful to you? Because I have. They've definitely given me new perspectives about DNFing books, and they've made it kind of more acceptable in my head. I have kind of thought about my choices as my choices again. Please tell me what you're doing this year about DNFing books, and if you enjoyed any of the books that I have discussed in this video, please feel free to tell me in the comments why you really enjoyed them, because I am up for that discussion too. I will speak to you soon. Bye!